Welcome back to World War Live. I'm your host, Conrad. Franz. Let me know if you can hear me in the chat. I hope you can. I'm not the best with all this tech stuff, but I'm doing my best. And it's good to be here this evening, 7:45 Central Standard Time, Tuesday, which is when I'm going to be coming at you here from the proverbial World War Now bunker. So it's good to be here. I'm reading the chat right now. I see that the audio seems decent, so I'm glad to hear it. Got people watching on X and on YouTube. I've had a busy day, recorded a fantastic Ether Hour episode earlier today with Anthony of Westgate, which is going to be coming out later this week. Hope everybody is ready for that. I'm going to be discussing some interesting things, his recent articles about the Kabbalistic roots of Protestantism and the Reformation and all those sorts of things. And today I've got a good stream for everybody. Going to be discussing some World War III news and then reacting to some content and, of course, answering your chats. So if you're in the chat already, be sure to like. If you're watching on X, be sure to retweet, share the stream. If you're on YouTube, be sure to like the stream. Let me know what you're doing in the chat. I want to see the chat going crazy. And again, like the video, share. It really helps out. And if you want me to answer one of your questions, be sure to send a super chat. It helps support the show. And I will, it'll help prompt the discussion. Who knows? Maybe you'll get a go-off moment. But I really appreciate everyone being here. Looking forward to doing these streams every week. I'm thinking maybe I might do every fourth stream once a month might be a subscribers-only stream. Maybe I'll do it on the Discord. If anyone's not already on the Discord, be sure to head over there. But maybe I'll do a subscribers-only Discord where it's like everyone can join and chat and ask questions, and it'll be more like a Twitter space, free-flowing style conversation. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We've got some mods in the chat this evening, so hopefully there won't be any chaos, anyone saying any ridiculous nonsense. Had a good day at the monastery this morning, went to the morning service. Always a good time talking to the people out there. It's just the most beautiful part of Texas as well. But not to get too into the personal situation, but we got the World War Now episode this week is going to be big, which is part of what I'm going to talk about tonight. A good thing about this stream is going to be how I can sort of discuss a few things that by the time Friday comes along and we record the show, I'll be able to kind of reference this stream, which will kind of cover some things in more detail that might have gotten forgotten or ultimately will probably change by the time we are recording on Friday. But I want to get right into that. Make sure the tab is sharing properly. And here we go. So for those that I think everyone can see this. This is a map. I'm sure everyone sees what's going on in Iran with Diego Garcia. Of course, we talked about that on the latest episode of World War Now. And now, I think it was the Telegraph or the Daily Mail, some British newspapers reporting that some Iranian general has come to them and said that Iran is now considering a preemptive strike on Diego Garcia, which is the British-owned airbase in the Chagos Islands in the Indian Ocean that the U.S. puts its bombers on. And, it was in use in the Iraq War, and it's one of the main kind of centers of projecting power across the entire Eurasian continent, frankly, for the United States. And this map shows you the range and is also tracking all the ships. So you see, which carrier strike groups, the other destroyers and whatnot that are in the Red Sea, the Persian Gulf, the Gulf of Aden, and just in general on the periphery of all of the enemies of Israel, as you see the United States acting as Israel's mercenary naval fleet here. And Diego Garcia is almost out of range of all of Iran's missiles. Of course, the Shahed 136B is Iran's most elite long-range missile. And in theory, if this what this Iranian general who addressed the British press, if this is true, if this isn't just a fake story, which I think it probably is to justify even greater provocations against Iran, I think in theory they could get struck and we could have B-2 bombers destroyed. But someone in the chat, of course, is saying that the UK did hand over, or rather Trump finally agreed to allow the UK to hand over Diego Garcia to Mauritius, which it hasn't happened yet, but it appears that that may be in store. And there's some super chats already about China and how this is going to relate to what's going on in Iran, which coincidentally enough, I had already planned to talk about a little bit this evening, not too extensively because I've got some other things I want to react to as well. But what this shows us is that again, Iran in theory, could do something, but there was even reports that Iran wanted to let the missiles land in the water as a sort of, look, see what we could have done. We could have bombed this, which, again, that's ridiculous. The U.S. is already using the Houthis as a sort of justification to escalate against Iran already. And I mean, Israeli news is saying that the strike is going to happen this week. The Israelis are always trying to saber rattle and get everybody to get someone to jump, as it were, to get the Iranians to escalate too far and justify, the U.S. just smashing them, which of course is what Israel wants to do. And the B-2 bombers, of course, are the only bombers that we have that could both bypass complex air defense systems because they're a stealth bomber, as well as actually drop the enormous, tens of thousands of pound bombs that they're needed to, destroy the Fordo in the mountain nuclear facility of Iran, to destroy the huge deep underground military bases that they have, that their entire missile system operates under, which, again, Iran is one of the most mountainous countries in the world. And again, the strikes are going to be there to disarm their nuclear facilities in some capacity. But if Iran then escalates that by hitting Israel hard, attempting to hit Diego Garcia, just actually destroying large amounts of U.S. bases in the region, then who knows, some of these, next thing you know, we might have troops on boats ready to land. And, look, the prophecies don't explicitly say anything about, the U.S. land invading Iran immediately, because, of course, we know that Russia is going to come down into Turkey. But, again, this is, I'm going to start sharing this tab. We know from Metropolitan Theophitos, I don't know if anyone can read this, maybe I need to make it bigger. Yes, he says, after the Jews strike against Iran's nuclear program, then both China and Russia will be forced to react. He said this February 21st of last year. And if anybody else hasn't seen, I think it was called the Shangdo or something like that, these Chinese exercises. I think they have 19 ships out of ports surrounding Taiwan. One of their carrier strike groups has been seen from the coast of Taiwan, and they have been, their foreign ministry has been releasing some pretty strong statements saying that Taiwan reunification is inevitable. The U.S. should give up on its strategies to use Taiwan to break China. And again, all of this in the context of the potential Iranian strikes. There's a few ways to interpret it. Obviously, China, they're the most capable of acting independently, as opposed to even Russia and Iran. China, their navy is getting to the point where it could potentially rival the United States. They have a whip hand over the economy with the United States because we get all of our goods from China, and they do need our consumer base, but ultimately, they have a much more centralized and controlled government and economy that I think would be able to operate in a much superior way in the midst of a huge war breaking out. But part of what people might assume is that these drills around Taiwan, this sort of saber rattling, getting the U.S. worried that someone might go in, some might say this is an attempt to get the Americans to back off of Iran, knowing that if they strike Iran with Israel at Israel's behest and continue to fight the Houthis and get involved in this regional war in the Middle East, well, what if China does decide to make its move on Taiwan? Is the United States, I know the military doctrine of the United States is they should be able to fight a two-front war and win both decisively, but that might come into question. China might be willing to challenge that and call the United States bluff there. And if China does go in on Taiwan, I think there's a chance that the U.S. might just let them take it, because I do think that, due to Israeli capture of U.S. institutions, Israel and the powers that be would make sure that the United States helps secure the Israeli realm before they, do something that, again, I don't support war with Taiwan either, but there's a much better argument to be made that it would benefit the American people to curb China's influence in the Pacific, whereas there is no tangible benefit to the people of the United States at all to continue to escalate in the region, because it's just the only people that benefits, of course, is Israel. And we've already got some super chats coming in here. We have Chaz Connor here. He asks, hey, why don't you guys cover events in the East precipitating the invasion of China into Russia, thus fulfilling the many prophecies from the eschatological visions of the blessed? And I believe it is Saint Seraphim Veritza who had prophecies about China invading Russia, and I believe it was very much caveated upon not the lack of repentance of the Russians, them failing to perhaps restore a czar, repent for the murder of the royal family, And obviously, we have said of that, I've actually mentioned it many times on the show, that if Russia continues down a path of this more multiculturalism and they actually don't stop the immigration problem and they don't stop, some of the other social ills that are facing them, then they very well might face an invasion from the east by the much more demographically populated and powerful in that region, China. And look, I mean, so much of the far east of Russia is already populated by very East Asian phenotypes. So it's really not that big of a stretch. But, Russia does, Vladivostok, these places are very strategically important for Russia. Russia knows how important it is that they have a very vast, Arctic Sea coastline, being the largest Arctic country. So that's not something they're going to give up lightly. But again, the idea that China could eventually go to war with Russia, I mean, I've always posited the possibility that, let's say, Russia turns on Iran. China is, of course, Iran's biggest oil customer. They might be more remiss to betray Iran for the Israelis, the Jews. But if Russia somehow turns against Israel, somehow maybe Turkey, Iran, and China form some kind of alliance, and Russia is invading Turkey more at the behest of Israel, and then the U.S. is dealing with China. I mean, there's all sorts of possibilities. And again, I hope that that's not what happens. I think there is hope for Russia. I think the fact that people are openly talking about monarchy and how orthodoxy is exploding there is a good sign as any to think that, again, when it comes to the Zionist question, that Russia will hopefully side on the right team, as it were. But again, we can never forget that the largest group of emigres to the Zionist entity were Jews from the Soviet Union, and some of those people still have some connection with Russia, and Russians have some affinity to them, some do in some capacity, and it's something that people are going to have to be careful about. But again, there's all sorts of geopolitical scenarios that could unfold here, and Metropolitan Theophitos very clearly connects the China-Iran situation, and Russia has openly said that it is unacceptable for the U.S. or Israel to strike Iran's nuclear capabilities. And again, if Russia doesn't stand with Iran, it would be a very detrimental to the reputation of the Russians. Their word would effectively mean nothing. So I think Russia, China, and Iran, as of right now, I'm not banking on the alliance being broken. And we're even seeing, as we've predicted on the show, a lot of people, especially Russian politicians, that want to consider Azerbaijan a great friend against the neoliberal Armenia, despite the fact that Russia and Armenia have had historic ties, and in many ways against Zionism. Russia and Armenia have shared interests in the Holy Land, protecting these holy sites, yet Azerbaijan is openly talking about forming these close alliances between Israel, the United States, and Azerbaijan, these trilateral defense agreements, these new exercises they're trying to do, and they are going to use that to confront Iran and ultimately Russia. I mean, the U.S. is looking at the location of Azerbaijan like this is an amazing place to confront all of our enemies in the region. And I think Russia is ultimately going to regret empowering them so much, like they have against Armenia, and like, of course, Russia has frankly been a bit ignorant of the Turkish question, as Turkey has openly sided with Ukraine, yet expanded its sphere of influence all the way across Russia's southern flank, across the Caspian Sea. So that's something that people are going to have to consider. And again, with this map in mind, again, just see, I mean, some of these, I mean, Diego Garcia is not far from China either. And China, I don't know how extensively about their operations in the Indian Ocean, but they are constantly pressing the South China Sea. And I mean, we're hearing reports every day from the Philippines and Vietnam about, the U.S. is using those points to pressure China as well. And China seems to be, pushing outwards the limits of its naval capabilities, which again, in some capacity are serving to relieve pressure from Iran, because the U.S. knows that their naval capacities are being rivaled as greatest in the world, and they may no longer be able to get spread as thin. We got some more super chats here. I'm not skipping anyone. I'm just trying to stay a little relevant to on topic. Is from Rye, $5. Have you seen anything about what they're finding as the Euphrates dries? Doesn't the drying of the Euphrates have eschatological importance? And I've talked to people about this, monks, spiritual people, and I've heard that it will actually be the Chinese in the Middle East that will drink the Euphrates dry, as it were. That will be what happens there. And I've heard, I believe Joseph of Vatopedi, one of the spiritual children of Saint Joseph the Hesychast, he had a lot of very dramatic proclamations about, the third of the Turks dying, a third of them converting to Orthodoxy, a third of them retreating into the red apple of, kind of the central Anatolian Turkish homeland or whatever. And the losing my train of thought. But then he also said that something like tens of millions of troops, like the Japanese somehow will deploy tens of millions of troops. And maybe, he was talking about all these East Asians and not just Japanese, but they say that a huge army from the East will march towards Jerusalem, and they'll even, I think, drink the Euphrates dry. I've heard this. But yes, the Euphrates is obviously, it's one of the main rivers in the Bible, so it's going to have a lot of significance here. But what's going on right now is, the main conflict around the Euphrates at like the Tishreen Dam between Kurdish forces, US-backed SDF forces, and the Turkish military. It's going fairly underreported because Turkey is trying to cooperate with the Syrian government. The US, again, isn't directly enemies of Turkey per se, so it's not getting, this big media coverage as all the Iran and axis of resistance stuff is, but it's still a very real battle that's undergoing. I've got another super chat here, $9.99. Thank you very much. Appreciate everybody sending the super chats. You are helping the show more than you know. A2Z says, hello, Conrad. Based on prophecies of the saints, what do you think will be made of South Africa? Will non-Orthodox have a chance at surviving the coming trials and tribulations? God bless, brother. Look, I'm not bullish on South Africa. I don't know if Cape Independence is a realistic thing. I think Orania is a great place. It's probably a better place to live than a lot of American cities, but fundamentally, you're still at risk of a genocidal anti-white government coming in and taking your stuff whenever they want. You're surrounded on all sides. Africans have developed a very strong anti-colonial, anti-white identity. And unfortunately, as much as I stand with the Boer and everyone there, it appears that they're in many ways being supported by the United States to wage a sort of proxy pressure campaign on the South African government due to their support for the Palestinians. And I recognize there's this whole anti-colonial, anti-white narrative that comes with supporting Palestine. But at the end of the day, Benjamin Netanyahu does deserve to get arrested and go to prison for genocide. So I'm not going to counter-signal them for that. But ultimately, I do support what the Trump campaign is doing in South Africa. Obviously, the people, the white people there need to be able to flee, I think, and be safe. I remember at one point Putin was helping resettle certain South African farmers in southern Russia. I wish that would increase. But ultimately, Putin was also aware of the proxy campaign being waged, of course, which is, it's unfortunate that people who are, actively being genocided, I believe the white South Africans are as well, by a, hostile racist government, that the only way they can get support is because they can ostensibly be used as a tool for Israel. I think that kind of says it all about, where the white man stands right now. And the white man needs to be able to stand up for himself on his own right, not because it may benefit Jews compared to something else. But yeah, that's my perspective on South Africa. I haven't been. I'd love to visit. I'd love to visit Cape Town and go to some of these places, but I know it's not the safest place to visit. So maybe some World War Now subscribers can hook it up if I ever go there. I love South Africans, though. Greek South Africans, some of the best people, some of my favorites. Not that there aren't other great South Africans like the Afrikaners themselves, but Greek South Africans are some of the strongest soldiers in the World War Now extended universe. And you know who you are if you are listening to this. But, speaking of the sort of relationship between Jewish and white identity, and I'm hoping I'm not going to get banned on stream number 2 here. Maybe I need to dog whistle a little harder and not just say the word, name them boys. But I'm sure many people saw this. I don't think I reacted to it directly on the timeline. Well, this is Joel Berry. He's an editor of the Babylon Bee. I believe he is ethnically Jewish. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure he is. He's a Protestant as well, obviously. But people might remember this video of this rabbi basically endorsing anti-Semitism laws. We can watch it really quick.
Anti-Semitism is not just an age-old prejudice. It is a contemporary crisis manifesting on campuses across the nation. It is not enough for individuals or institutions to merely claim they are not anti-Semitic. As my father once taught me, it is not enough for people, especially public figures, to be neutral or not be anti-Semitic. One must be anti-Semitic. We must demand the same of our universities and government institutions. This hearing, in my opinion, is an attempt to be just that, anti-Semitic. Anti-Semitism is not just an age.
And then we had good old Joel saying, well, Matt Walsh says, this is a page right out of the BLM playbook, same rhetoric, almost word for word, which obviously we all heard about the, you can't just be not racist. You have to be anti-racist. And I think the double negative, the anti-Semitic is pretty funny, considering it shows how ridiculous of a term anti-Semitic even is, because these people hate Arabs more than anybody. You know, technically they're Semitic too. But then good old Joel here, good old Joel, and maybe I'll read it in his, maybe the voice he doesn't. Perhaps the same rhetoric, but a completely different meaning. For BLM, anti-racism wasn't about being actively against racism. It represented a full-blown color revolution designed to dismantle Western civilization and institute racist DEI policies. That's not what the rabbi is calling for here. And then I think there's a longer version of the video. And Joel is like, he's like, oh, wait, maybe this guy's terrible. He's like, I just saw a little more of the video. It looks like he's asking for more than that, calling for the passing of hate speech laws in Congress. So look how this guy just gave this guy the benefit of the doubt. Like, he saw this video, he sees this rabbi, he's like, oh, I'm going to just hop on Twitter and defend this guy, no matter how much of a lol cow it makes me look. And now, of course, he's, oh, this is actually bad. This is terrible. But again, Joel is the same type of person who effectively denies the existence of like a white race. And when you say that perhaps there might be something that there might be interests, or there might be things that white people collectively could or should advocate for because it would benefit them as a group. And Joel Berry denies that there's white identity is even something that should be considered. I don't think he even believes that white people is a thing. But notice how here he says, in the context of the hearing, it seemed like he's just asking for Jews to not be harassed and intimidated on campus. Well, white people have been low-key harassed and intimidated on campus forever. I mean, people remember the Trump years. People remember the Battle of Berkeley, all these sorts of things. I mean, I went to a conservative college, and a kid posted a picture on Instagram. It was in downtown Manhattan, putting a MAGA hat on the cover, on the head of that Defiant Girl statue. If people remember, there was that stupid feminist nonsense of like the little girl defiantly standing in front of the Wall Street Bull. Well, my college was right around there, and he put the MAGA hat on there, and they brought him in front of like the school honor council. It wasn't even on campus. It was ridiculous, literally Gestapo level nonsense. And, nobody, again, this is a belabored point at this point, but nobody was calling for these massive and what this led for, this hearing and stuff, it's all leading to these draconian rules being implemented on these campuses about you can't say anything against Israel, you can't say anything about Jewish, I mean, you already couldn't really say anything about Jewish power, but you can't say anything about Israel, you can't critique Zionism in any way, like Zionism is basically becoming religiously protected. And again, how many years of just like brutal anti-white, anti-Christian propaganda did we endure on the campuses, only for, again, the moment it gets a little too spicy for Israel and there's protests against the genocide in Gaza, suddenly, whoa, wokeism has gone too far. We have to rein this in. And now what do we see? We see this astroturfed sort of like right-wing racism basically being allowed to ferment. I mean, everyone's been on X. You see, I mean, look, some of it's good, right? I mean, a lot of anti-Indian content. People are getting red pilled about crime statistics. People are learning about smoke detectors beeping and all these sorts of things. But notice that within all of this it's sort of being grafted in that, we support Israel against the brown horde of Palestinians. Oh, and Jews, they're definitely white. They're part of Western civilization. None of these things are true, obviously, but people recognize that the energy against wokeism, against leftism was rising. But at the same time, so was this Palestine stuff, which, again, a lot of the people supporting Palestine against Israel are obviously on the left. They're part of this, woke thing. And then the big thing was, oh man, all these immigrants that we brought in are also siding with Palestine. So now we're getting the strictest ideological based immigration deportation operation against all of these pro-Hamas protesters, these people that participate, with some Asians, you got some Middle Easterners, some other people that are on green cards, legal residents that are being effectively stripped of all their rights and removed from the country because they dared to protest Israel. And again, where was this when heritage Americans, when whiteness itself, like literally people were being called white devils, there was mad, very genocidal rhetoric. I mean, and look at, 2020, after the whole George Floyd thing, it was kind of open season on white people at a certain level. I mean, definitely white cops. But again, obviously someone like Joel Berry, who is going to come in here and, again, vigorously defend Jewish identity and their kind of ability to have identity politics, these same people are going to, the same exact people that cast aspersions on the idea that, oh, well, you're white. What interests are there for white people? What do you mean by that? It's suddenly very obfuscated. They don't know what it means to be. They'll demand that you define what it even means to be white, and they'll demand that you show some sort of historical precedent, which obviously anyone can do. I mean, just read the earliest voting and immigration acts of the United States. But the fact that people like this, and again, Joel Berry has kind of just become a lolcow again at this point. Most of his posts are just getting ratioed and dunked on by the online right. But again, look, he claims to be against hate speech laws here and everything, but look how quick he was to go along with the narrative. Like, it was, he now he has to have nuance now that he's sort of basically been exposed on the internet. But he saw this guy in his funny hat that openly hates Christ, and he just immediately gave him the benefit of the doubt. Yet if you talk about caring in any way or having any kind of affinity for your own people that are European, he's basically going to assume that you're not a Christian and that he calls them, there was a post he made, I don't know if I'll be able to find it, but he basically calls Stephen Wolfe, who is a Presbyterian. I don't agree with him on everything, but he wrote The Case for Christian Nationalism. I don't think I can find it right now, but he basically said, this timeline is cringe. Let's get back up to the content I was reacting to. But he basically said, ethno-nationalist pagan Stephen Wolfe. So he's willing to completely deny your relationship with Christ, the fact that you are a Christian, if you also happen to have any sort of affinity for your own people. But somebody who I'm sure Joel Berry would support and vote for is Randy Fine, this guy running for the House of Representatives. He's a Florida state senator running for the U.S. House of Representatives in Florida 6th Congressional District. I'm sure people have seen Trump shilling night and day for him, because if you don't know, the Republican House majority is in the tank. It is a razor-thin majority, so much so to the point that Donald Trump had to recall Elise Stefanik from her position as UN ambassador, because she's also in the House of Representatives, and they're afraid that her seat will get lost to the Democrats when there's a special election. So he kept her in. He's pushing really hard for these people, and it appears that I think they're going to win. I think the election is finished effectively this evening. But again, this is our next congressman from Florida 6th Congressional District. This is very recent this year. Gaza must be destroyed. It has been. There is no suffering adequate for these animals. May the streets of Gaza overflow with blood. Someone posts a picture of a baby that was killed and says, quite well, actually. Thanks for the pic. Sorry everyone had to see that. Killed them all. Hashtag no mercy. Hashtag bombs away. And let's be real. Just everyone knows, this is the person saying this. It's this individual. This Chungus. And this is the piece. These people rule over you. These are your overlords. This is the type of person you can't criticize. And if you do, there's a chance you could go to prison. So I think everyone needs to be aware of the clownery that we're in. This is a good chat. Joel Berry got destroyed in his debate against Dave Green. That was true. The Distributist destroyed him. I don't know if I can find that clip. Maybe I can find it really quick. But yeah, he was basically asked if, because he's like an anti-racist. That was the thing about those posts by Joel Berry as well. He was it said, he didn't say that, BLM is wrong and what this rabbi is saying is wrong. He's like, BLM actually wasn't anti-racist. They did the whole "you're the real racist" kind of thing. And that's when someone just doesn't get it and is on the opposite side. Because if you're going to use the fake communist term racist to condemn, people that, care about your people, because, sorry, I'm looking at the chat, getting distracted. But if you're actually thinking like, look, my heuristic here is who is and isn't racist, then you've already lost the battle. You're already, negotiating on their terms, because racism is something that only applies to white people, as everybody knows. I mean, literally, according to most scholars today, racism is power over prejudice. So actually, black people can't be racist. I mean, everyone's heard this nonsense. But again, it's people like Joel Berry. They support this guy being an ethno-supremacist, obese individual who gloats over the murder of children for ethno-genocidal reasons. But if you are somebody who doesn't think that we should have mass migration, you thinks that maybe, white people it's okay that white people maybe want to live with each other, then you're actually an ethno-nationalist pagan. So this is your brain on Christian Zionism, on Jewish evangelicalism. But I should find that clip about Joel Berry and the Distributist. Yeah, I've got well, this also ties into, I don't know how close the Babylon Bee people are with Doug Wilson these days, but Doug Wilson, who, claims to not be a Christian Zionist and all these sorts of things, but in his articles openly says, I don't know the exact, he hasn't released his ancestry results or 23andMe, but he's basically admitted to being Jewish. One of his grandkids was wearing a Chabad Lubavitch stylized shirt in the midst of a lot of these anti-Israel protests on campus. He's in some fraternity that I'm sure is super philo-Semitic. And Doug is also, he's been accused of kinism and ethno-nationalism. He's basically had to walk it all back. He came out against Joel Webbin, Andrew Isker, some of these other people that have been, some would say much stronger, real nationalists, not, out and proud civic nationalists that don't believe in all these sorts of things. But Doug Wilson has openly said that, I have to support Israel because of my family connection. He basically uses ethno-nationalist reasons to support Israel, to say why he is not a he's not a Christian Zionist, but he's not anti-Israel. Again, it's these tortured, belabored positions, because these people that actually care about theology know that, no, you can't be a Christian Zionist. You can't believe in you have to believe in supersessionism. You can't be like, oh, supersessionism is evil, because then you're denying the gospel. You're denying that every human being needs Jesus Christ to be saved, of course. But I'm trying to find this clip, and I just can't. But it's a great clip where Dave Green, the Distributist, basically says, because Joel Berry sort of gives a definition of racism, and then Dave Green is like, well, were the founding fathers racist? And he's like, well, what do you mean? And he's like, were there any founding fathers that you would describe as like not racist? And he's like, well, he's trying to name them. He's like, just name any founding father that wasn't racist. And obviously, it's not true. The founding fathers were all racist according to today's standards. And, many of them, of course, advocated in favor of racial-based slave ownership. Of course, many of them said that even if they were against slavery, they obviously said that the races shouldn't intermix. And of course, this is obviously, no one is allowed to advocate for this today without getting, excoriated as a racist. Yet the exact same people who are trying to uphold the civil rights regime based on the Constitution, they don't want to admit that the people that, penned the Constitution were obviously quote unquote racists. And that's where someone like Joel Berry, who also, again, he will openly make like very ethno-nationalist, ethno-supremacist posts about the fact that he's Jewish, about the fact that he believes Israel should, that Israel should do everything that it can to secure itself. And again, he has this whole idea that, again, they I don't think they even believe this. They just know that, we can convince a bunch of people that Israel is, less oppressive to Christians than Islam. And then we can, use the whole kind of 9/11 anti-Islam propaganda, which, again, not in favor of Islam. But when someone on their timeline only posts against Islam, I'm sorry, they're a Zionist. Like that only Zionists at this point are solely focusing on that, because at this point on X and all over the social media sphere, I mean, the cat's out of the bag on them boys, which I think is part of the reason why we're seeing these hearings. And again, we remember all the stuff with Claudine Gay at Harvard getting fired and all the campus anti-Semitism stuff, which caused Bill Ackman and a lot of these Jewish billionaires after October 7th to jump ship on the Democrats and support Trump. Miriam Adelson, or $100 million to Trump. That's why we're seeing everything happening in the West Bank right now that Trump is allowing to happen. And at the same time, it's continuing. I mean, look what Colombia, I think, was just forced to fire their president. And now all of these, again, draconian, anti-free speech, anti-Semitism things are coming to the fore. But people want to ask more questions, going to have to put in more super chats. Maybe I'll read some from the live chat, but I can't make any promises that if you're in the live chat, you're going to get your question answered. But He says Ethnoguess or IPO in a great free-to-play game would be fun. Maybe I should stream Ethnoguess. I didn't prep that before the show, so I don't want to have something go wrong. But maybe in the future I will live stream myself playing Ethnoguesser and see how racist I really am. Like, am I all talk, or am I a pro? I like to think that I know my phenotypes, but I don't know. I think some of these jungle Asians, I think they might get me because I'm not as well versed on their different looks. But maybe that'd be something fun to do. But send in more super chats. Obviously, I need more shekels to keep the lights on here, but I like answering your questions, so I appreciate it. They've been good questions so far. Let me check Telegram, see if there's been any new updates regarding what's going on right now with the war with Iran. I got something from Bellum Acta. Let's share the Telegram window here. Boom. There we go. This here says, the Pentagon has moved an additional aircraft carrier and its attendant ships into the region, joining the USS Harry Truman carrier strike group already there. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has authorized at least 2 Patriot missile defense batteries from Asia to be moved to the Middle East. 2 U.S. officials and 1 defense official told NBC News. And in a move that suggests thoughts of a sustained campaign in the Middle East, NBC News has also learned from 1 U.S. official and another person familiar with the matter that defense officials have approved the relocation of a large missile system known as, it's the THAAD missile system. Again, this is from NBC. Amid rising tensions with Iran and ongoing strikes against Yemen, 2 Patriot batteries and 1 THAAD battery have been transferred from Indo-Pacific Com to CENTCOM over the past 48 hours. Multiple USAF cargo planes have been flying in and out of South Korea. Over 10 C-17s have landed at Osan Air Base. They then continued the Ramstein Air Base in Germany and Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. The movement of air defense systems typically requires a large number of cargo planes, with 6 to 7 needed to transport the trucks and up to 15 for ammunition and spare equipment. So again, Trump is clearly signaling to Iran that he at least wants them to believe that they are going to do something to them, which again, unfortunately for Iran, if they balk, they prove that I think they're going to balk every time. So at a certain level, Iran realizes they're going to have to call the United States' bluff. The problem is Trump may be bluffing. Like, Trump may be willing to back down short of war, but I'm not sure if the people that he's empowered, and especially not the Israelis, if he's got brought it this far, the Israelis are very much willing, I think, do a false flag. I think that's the big fear, is that if Israel realizes that we're at like a hair trigger situation where if with one wrong move from the other side, missiles are flying, B-2 bombers launched from Diego Garcia, every base in the region is launching missiles at Iran, bunker busters destroying Iran's nuclear capabilities, Israel's going to do what it has to do. Israel will blow up a U.S. aircraft carrier and say it was Iran. They'll say it was the Houthis. Israel would be willing to do a domestic terrorist attack in the United States. Israel would be willing to kill you and your family if they thought it would get them into a war with Iran. I think they would even be willing to kill Donald Trump. That would be something that I think would actually benefit them greatly. Empower a bellicose J.D. Vance, who has a reputation as actually a dove. He's not necessarily considered a war hawk, but empower him, somebody that has somewhat built up the trust of the America First base, and he's got a mission. He has the casus belli. They just murdered our president. They just killed Donald Trump. Full war with Iran, full war potentially then with China, even with Russia. Let's say Erdogan falls sometime in the next month. I think that's going to be a big thing as well. Erdogan is clearly very much trying to tamp down on the news about the protests against him. I mean, they arrested Pikachu, so they're really cracking down on everybody. But we got some more super chats. Yes, thank you for heeding the call, Josh. Shalom. The Abo versus Central African faces messed my ethno-guesser score up. Sorry, bro. That's rookie stuff. I'm sorry, but if you can't tell the difference between Australian Aboriginal and various Bantus, then I don't know what to tell you. I mean, maybe if you were getting some pygmies in there, maybe I could understand. But nah, totally different phenotypes. Maybe I'm talking too big of a game. Maybe I'll eat my words when I play this live next week. That's not a promise per se, but you can bank on it. I'll play some ethno guesser. Alan Wong, more shekels to keep the lights on. Blessed Lenten struggles. Thank you, my friend. $20. That's what we like to see. Getting close to my, I'll be able to make a withdrawal because I had to make a new AdSense account before I could do these live streams because of complicated email reasons that I don't want to get into on the stream. But got to get to my first $100 on the super chats as well so I can actually deposit the money or withdraw the money from the account. But someone asks, would you say the live streams have as much replay value as the weekly news episodes and Ether Hour? Everything has amazing replay value here at World War Now, but I don't know if you want me to be 100% honest. I would say the Ether Hours have the most replay value of all the content. And my hope is that these will have replay value because, again, I want to be reacting to content. I want to be reacting to, things like the Joel Berry tweet, these sorts of things. If you want to suggest things that you want me to react to, I might make a chat, or you can just use the World War Now general channel on the Discord, join the Discord and suggest things you might want me to react to on the streams, especially things that are more kind of perennial pieces of cultural commentary, whether it's something about gender discourse, race discourse, religion discourse. There were some things about on Ortho Twitter that I almost waded into on the stream today, and I realized that some of the people I was going to be talking about, frankly, didn't deserve the attention that I would have been giving them by talking about them. So I'm only going to wade into that and those things when I think it would be edifying for the audience, and not just because perhaps I'm angry at somebody on X, which again isn't, maybe I should just get less angry at people on X. I'm trying my best on Lent. I know it's hard, but people say silly things. But appreciate everybody. The chats, no new super chats right now, so I'm gonna move on to. I had one more thing to talk about. Sorry, I gotta switch back to the Chrome tab really quick. Hold on, where's the... I have another thing I wanted to react to. This is more personal. Hold on. All right, where'd it go? Well, I was going to react to the new Paul Thomas Anderson movie trailer with Leonardo DiCaprio and his in-universe black wife, but I'm not finding it. Hold on, bear with me. It was on my own page. Let me just go to my profile. Bad stream etiquette, too much dead air. But yeah, Paul Thomas Anderson, one of my favorite film directors. He's directing this, which I guess is literally about interracial communist revolutionaries blowing people up. And Leonardo DiCaprio is the star. Look, I think Leonardo DiCaprio is a talented actor. I enjoy his movies. I think Paul Thomas Anderson's a great director. For those that don't know, Paul Thomas Anderson made Magnolia. He made Phantom Thread. He made the recent movie that I enjoyed a lot, Licorice Pizza. The Master with Joaquin Phoenix. Boogie Nights. Again, some of these movies are degenerate. I'm not necessarily endorsing all of the content, but he's a fantastic film director. Magnolia for a long time was one of my favorite movies. And I know if anyone was a Royal Path watcher before its tragic end, Father Turbo would recommend Magnolia all the time. It's a great movie. And some people would even say there's certain Orthodox themes there. It's a long one, though, so if you want to commit to it. But yeah, I don't even want to watch the trailer. It's pissed me off so bad. But I've always said I used to love movies. I wanted to go to film school before I went to school for journalism / media. But yeah, I really wanted to go to film school in California and do all that. Thankfully, God had other plans, but my favorite directors have always been the Coen brothers, Paul Thomas Anderson, Wes Anderson. There's others, of course, but those have always kind of been my main three favorite directors. And unfortunately, part of the reason why everyone liked them is because they were, I don't want to say they were anti-woke, but they just made good movies. But recently, you have this from Paul Thomas Anderson, which I'm not even sure I can go and watch, like genuinely that bad. Just too bad because he made a movie not long ago that was good. You had a movie from, I think it was Joel Coen, so just one of the Coen brothers, but it was some like lesbian femme fatale garbage that I obviously had no interest in as well. So that was disappointing to see. And then Wes Anderson, who I'm not going to go so far as to say he's made a dud yet or anything like that, but between The French Dispatch, Asteroid City, and I think even I saw something about his new movie. There's been a bit more wokeness. I don't know how else to say it. There's been a bit more homosexuality. Gay character in French Dispatch, which I didn't really have a problem with that part. But then Asteroid City, you got Jason Schwartzman and was it Edward Norton or making out or something? Like why, man? Come on. We just didn't need to see that. I like the movie though. It's, as someone who, as a space is fake head, I enjoyed the movie, especially not like pure sci-fi things that are about space. I think have a lot of interesting symbolism about that whole thing. I almost reacted to some space is fake stuff, but I think I'm going to save that for a future stream that I will more adequately prepare for to explore and watch some of the most important clips and content about the reality that space is not real. So I hope no one in the chat is hearing that for the first time. That causes people to really melt down. But we're getting close to about an hour here. See any other updates on Telegram here. But I hope everybody is clicking the links down below. Be sure to prepare for the Anthony of Westgate Ether Hour this week. It's going to be a very good discussion, and I think some people might find it controversial. I don't know. We got a lot of flack in the past few weeks on X, people saying that you can't criticize the Protestant, you can't criticize the founding stock of America, the Puritans, these people that settled on our shores. And look, I have a lot of admiration and respect for the people that crossed the ocean on the Mayflower and that settled Jamestown and Roanoke and these other places that many people died to establish these footholds in the New World. But look, we've come to where we are. The United States is a world thalassocracy that works at the behest of Israel. And that wouldn't be possible. That wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have manifested that way if the theological underpinnings of the people that started this nation that became this empire were different. Like that, again, I know everybody's a realist. Everybody, even religious people, they don't want to connect. Even Putin himself says he doesn't want to connect, religion and politics. But these things are not separable. This is an unnecessary bifurcation. This is, again, it's very Cartesian, this sort of Cartesian dualism and all these sorts of things. But we need to understand that anything that's happening in the political realm, anything that's happening in the civilizational realm is going to come from our sort of religious presuppositions. And if you haven't read Anthony's articles about, the sort of Jewish mystic roots of a lot of this Protestant stuff, then I highly recommend reading them. And we're going to explore it even more in our Ether Hour episode this week. So if you're not behind the paywall, be sure to get behind the paywall because we're going to have some good stuff coming up. Another super chat, $5 from Josh. On Kick, you could do an Ether Hour type live thing and say the special word / address wackier topics. I don't have a Kick account. I can only stream to 3 places. And right now I'm streaming to X and YouTube because in the future I also have to stream to Substack. So YouTube, we haven't been demonetized or banned yet. Recently, we say a lot of this stuff on the show. We haven't been banned, so that's good. People have been a little bit easier. I don't know if they have super chats enabled on Rebecca Hargraves' channel, but if you watch The Backlash, they're live on YouTube every Wednesday evening, and they just say it how it is. So I'm not saying we're in a renaissance on YouTube, but maybe we are. But, again, if I get banned on YouTube, I'll probably pick up Kick and then do X, Kick, and Substack. But hopefully in the next, I prayed because I'm a Substack bestseller, so I get access to all the features early. Like I had the live streaming from the phone. I had that like a month before it was released to the public. But if they can get desktop streaming set up, I'll be able to stream directly on Substack, here on YouTube, and on X, and that will be very much ideal. I think it'll help the channel grow, and I think we'll have a good stream going here. But like I said, let me know in the live chat in general if you would like to see a subscribers only stream. I know some people say they don't like Discord, but look, it's the best platform. It does what it does. We've got over 250 people on there at this point. It's really good. It's a benefit if you're a paid subscriber. You get access to the premium chats. We're in there every once in a while, certain subjects we don't really want to talk about with the unwashed masses, just for the ether-pilled patricians, as they are called, of course, in the Discord. So be sure to check that out. And again, if you would like to see a once a month supporter Q&A kind of thing, because again, we already do the supporter Q&A episodes where you can write your questions. There would be Q&A aspects, but I'm almost more just a conversation, just shooting the shit with you in Discord, which I think that would be a good thing to do. Question, it's not a super chat, so sorry for everyone, breaking the rules. Alan Wong, are there any outstanding examples of thalassocracy done well, or does the nature of the environment always encourage rulers to do bad things? Well, I don't know. Couldn't you consider, Greece? I guess it was a network of city-states, but was sort of a sort of ethnic, not official empire, but they did war a lot, but they were all sort of thalassocratic in these seafaring states. Of course, you have, the Romans themselves were always much more, confident on land, and I think the Carthaginians were more the seafaring people. So in many ways, the thalassocratic empire has always been sort of the villain in the fights that we've seen throughout world history. But I don't know if there's anything per se innate about that. I don't know. Maybe someone that understands maybe Jonathan Pajot could weigh in on something like this. But unfortunately, instead of answering questions like this, Jonathan Pajot is too busy streaming with Jordan Peterson, analyzing astroturfed JD Vance memes, which, look, I'm not going to say I didn't maybe laugh at a few of the stupid JD Vance face edit memes, but Jonathan, he's a brilliant mind. I think he's got a lot of things to say, and I know he is kind of tapped in on these things, World War II, certain events that occurred around that time and their symbolic meaning, burnt offerings and these things. He's hip to all of that. I know he's hip to the Zionist stuff, yet he knows that he can get a lot of an audience from collaborating with Jordan Peterson, from collaborating with Daily Wire. And Jordan Peterson is so married to Judaism that he's, I think, willing to sort of go down with the ship, as it were, on the Daily Wire, and see that all the way through to the end, because I think he thinks he's doing like a messianic service and saving the Jewish people by standing against anti-Semitism and all this kind of stuff. Meanwhile, there's that high pressure campaign against Michael Knowles and Matt Walsh to leave the Daily Wire, which would be fantastic. But Jonathan Pajot, I think he's personal friends with Jordan Peterson, so maybe I can give him the benefit of the doubt on that. But there are all sorts of symbolic things, and I don't know if he has a paywall or not. I think he does. Maybe he addresses some of these things behind the paywall. But thinking about something like, think about how many times, or just how many things that are very controversial that Jonathan could analyze from a symbolic perspective. Ideas that I've talked about here, ideas about race, ideas about gender. And I know he touches on those things to a certain degree, but again, I think he's hindering himself, not realizing that the cat is kind of out of the bag on them boys. And if you're going to be talking about ultimate reality and you're not addressing the fact that, we live in a system controlled and ruled over by the people that killed Jesus Christ, then I don't know, are you getting paid? Are you afraid? What's the thing there? And I'm not saying everyone has to come on here like me and dox themselves and say all this, these hard truths. But if you're going to make a living telling people about what you consider to be the truth, then I think you have an obligation to, take some risks. Like, obviously, I know he's got a family to feed and everything, but he is in Canada. So even if the Canadian thing isn't affecting him biologically, I think the fact that, again, there's no free speech in Canada. You can't just do whatever you want. But I think he could. I think he would actually benefit. I think, ironically, the audience and the people that are paying attention would appreciate some candor on a lot of these things, as opposed to the kind of self-censoring, because you don't want to lose the potential next invite to the Jordan Peterson show. And Jonathan, if you're somehow watching this on the clips list, I'm sorry. I'm a big fan. I love you, but just saying, just telling it how it is. Paisius, he says, will you ever do an ether hour on the true/genuine Orthodox? Which ones, man? I don't know. And look, I don't want to hate too hard. There are quote unquote true Orthodox people that are paid supporters of World War now. So I don't want to seem disrespectful, but you can't be joining those groups. Like, you can't. I understand that some of them have a kind of legacy of tangential communion, that they were once with Rokor and the whole Jerusalem Patriarchate thing. But look, you really, when you really start to lose me, is you look at these groups that are at a sphygmenu. You look at some of these groups, again, you got the GOCK, Metropolitan Demetrios, who I think a lot of them will still consider people like St. Paisios or St. Porphyrios saints. But then you get these people like, what was I saying? Totally lost my train of thought. You get, you get these people like, HOCNA, obviously, Rokor A, some of these other groups, and they don't believe that most of these latter 20th century Athonite elders are even saints. And then you just completely lost me at that point. I mean, people say that Elder Ephraim isn't a saint. They say that Elder Ephraim abandoned his mission and embraced the world when he accepted the offer at Philotheo and embraced and started concelebrating with the new calendarists and commemorating the ecumenical patriarch. And look, everyone's entitled to their opinion, but I don't think that I have to listen to or respect or, really entertain somebody that's going to say that nonsense about Elder Ephraim, St. Paisios, all these other people and whatnot. And I understand it. Like, in Greece, I've met some fathers that are very sympathetic to the zealots and the old calendarists, at least the ones that don't, take it too far. But unfortunately, there's been such a hole dug. I mean, there are already martyrs, at least that the old calendarist synods claim, were killed by the Greek authorities when they were imposing the new calendar on them. And of course, everybody knows about Sphygmenu and the situation there where, literally in 2013, the monks threw Molotov cocktails at the Greek police and have said, in the last year when I was on Mount Athos, there was all these rumors that the Greek government was going to storm, like police and tanks were going to storm Mount Athos and arrest these guys. A lot of them said they were going to die before they ever gave that up. And if that happened, then there would be martyrs. And look, how hard would it be to put the cat back in the bag and come together if there's martyrs that they claim the other side murdered? So it's a tough situation. And at the end of the day, going into schism and starting your own synod is not how we ecclesiologically resist innovation and modernism. I know Father Peter has talked about this extensively, but on Mount Athos, there are a number of non-commemorators that, due to the fact that they believe that the ecumenical patriarchate is acting in a non-orthodox manner, stop commemorating the ecumenical patriarchate. What they don't do is then join up in communion and start commemorating some random guy that isn't even an actual bishop, much like all of these true Orthodox schismatics. And again, I'm sympathetic to a lot of these people. I think there's a chance that a lot of them can get brought back into the fold fairly easily. But there are so many groups. I mean, there's the Metropolia of the British Isles, there's the HOCNA, there's GOCK, there's a Synod in Resistance, there's these people in South America, there's the Romanian old calendarists that have all those people. Just at a Sphygmenu alone, there are 5 different schismatic groups represented. I think most of them have excommunicated each other, but they just have this sort of agreement that they can all hang out at a Sphygmenu so they can all have access to Mount Athos. And this is just not a serious ecclesiology. This is just not, I can't take these people seriously. And unfortunately, because Orthodoxy in America is already much smaller than Protestantism and Catholicism, it confuses a lot of people. I guarantee you there are people who fall in love with Orthodoxy. They happen to live near a true Orthodox parish, and now next thing you know, they've been thrust into a theological autismo battle that they were never prepared for. And I'm not saying that people don't have a responsibility to educate themselves about this stuff. I think far too many people and far too many priests allow their parishioners, like, it's okay that the parishioners know literally nothing about our ecclesiology or our bishops. Look, if you're a Christian, then Jesus should be a pretty important thing in your life, reading your Bible, praying, reading about the history of the church. And if you're Orthodox, that should be just as important. Like, and maybe I'm just projecting here, but as someone who became Orthodox, like, why wouldn't you want to know as much as you could about the bishops? These are people who are descended of the apostles. These are people who had hands laid on them and have the authority to bind and loose, rightly divide the word of the truth of Christ. I mean, this is, I don't understand why people wouldn't want to know everything they could about this. And, that's why I love traveling and meeting people like Metropolitan Theophitos and talking to monastics and talking to people in Russia. I mean, this is what I love to do, which is why I'm so grateful that people like you guys are able to super chat and support the show and allow me to, do this every day for a living. So I greatly appreciate it. And we have $10 here from Zach. Good buddy, Daily Wire is the canary in the coal mine for the broader conservative movement. Its decline is indicative of a paradigm shift we're all in the middle of. Also, Josh Schmidt is a homosexual. Well, Josh Schmidt is a family man. I know that, but I will defend his honor here. But now those guys are my friends. They're just crapping on each other. But Daily Wire, the thing, it's fascinating. I do hope it. I would love if Michael Knowles and Matt Walsh left Daily Wire. I would love if it literally stopped existing, because that would just be. I mean, look, even Steven Crowder, who at one point was considered one of their bigger competitors, I mean, he is now being basically forced by his audience to address the Israel question. Obviously, everybody knows, the cat is just out of the bag, and there's just no way that, again, the controlled opposition, conservatard media is going to be able to compete with. I mean, look, it just shows you that the moment even just a little bit of censorship is undone. I mean, look, this week, Dimitri and I, we're ranked, I believe right now we're 72 or 71 in all of Substack for world politics, which is one of the biggest, it might be, I think after health or maybe one other, it's the biggest category on Substack for Substacks and shows. So I want to, of course, thank everybody for the support there. It's amazing. And we, I hope we can keep growing. Obviously, Substack has been a fantastic platform. And again, like I said, hopefully this stream can be live on Substack too. So if any Substack devs are watching this, get on it. Zach making a good point here. I believe there's 70 or 80 different true Orthodox groups. I'm not even kidding. Seraphim Rose spoke back when he was alive about a group on Athos that was literally half a dozen people under one priest. Oh yeah. You hear about that kind of stuff all the time. And even here in Texas, where I'm at in Austin, there was a schismatic Western Rite, and then in 2022, the bishop of their little thing died, and then I think the whole thing just died. The parish just ended because the bishop was kind of the whole thing. Paisios, just good questions here, looking at some stuff. Hey, Conrad, outside of Metropolitan Theophitos, what are some other bishops you would like to interview on World War Now? Oh, I don't know. There's so many people I'd love to talk to. Obviously, we'd love to talk to Archbishop Gabriel. That's been sort of loosely in the works for a long time. There's a lot of bishops that don't speak English, Metropolitan Theophitos included, that I would love to talk to. I know Abbot Porphyrios, he's a bishop of Solovki Monastery in Russia. I've heard amazing things about him. Obviously, Metropolitan Tikhon of Crimea, that would be a fantastic interview. Metropolitan Tychikos, I got to speak to him, which was amazing. An interview with him would be wonderful as well. He's a very, very holy man. There's several American bishops that would be very interesting to talk to, Metropolitan Longin of the Serbs. I've heard amazing things about him, but apparently he's very difficult to reach. The new Metropolitan Seraphim, who's a vicar, attached bishop with Metropolitan Longin. I think those would all be really good people to interview. I'd love to interview Patriarch Bartholomew. I wonder how would that go, right? I don't know. Maybe that would be presumptive, but talk to him, talk to Patriarch Kirill. I'd love to talk to Archbishop Alexios in Gaza, the Jerusalem Patriarchate Bishop in Gaza. That would be an incredible interview. And Mr. Scream, where do I get information on this World War II burnt offering stuff? People in the know can let this guy know what what we're talking about there. And Paisio says, personally, I know he has dementia, but I'd love for you to do an interview with Metropolitan Isaiah before he reposes. Well, Metropolitan Isaiah, I don't know if he's going to be doing interviews. I feel bad, Paisios, on Sunday, the past after you left. Metropolitan Isaiah did come out later in the day, and I got to get his blessing. So I apologize if I led you astray that he might not come out, because he did actually come out, and it was great to see him. But Metropolitan Isaiah is amazing. I have posted Metropolitan Isaiah quotes before. It's amazing that he is nearby. And what was it? He's the one that said that monasteries are satellites that connect heaven and earth, which I think that's a very profound thing. And there's that picture of him serving at Holy Archangels at the monastery with Elder Ephraim, which is a beautiful thing. And Father Deacon Patrick, great stream. Thank you, Father Deacon. Always appreciate the clerical support. If anybody knows any canonical monastics that listen to the show, don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I will comp them with a lifetime free subscription. Again, like I said, we have some true Orthodox people that financially support, and I appreciate the support. I can't say I'm gonna comp your stuff, but I do appreciate the support. And I'll leave it running for a few more minutes, maybe 3-4 more minutes. If anyone has any more super chats, I'll happily answer your questions. Maybe this will be a shorter stream today, but I appreciate everybody tuning in. It's been a great time. Next time, I think maybe we'll play some Ethno Guesser. Oh, we got a hater. Let's see. How come you third world sellouts never say anything about BRICS, Arabs as a Qatari influence in Western politics? Are you Jewish? I'd love to know. Someone asked if this guy's Jewish. Because if you listen to the show, we have talked about Qatar a lot. We actually talk about how Qatar is ultimately just part of the Zog system. There's United States bases in Qatar, but people like you always want to obfuscate and convince everybody that somehow there's some. Everyone saw. Oh, you know what? I've got something I got to react to here. We can't miss this. We cannot miss this. Did people see this Roseanne Barr clip? Yeah, let's watch this real quick.
And Islam, right, which has killed the marriage of Christianity and Islam, right, which has killed the Jews and hate the Jews. And Chrislam, they want to be the world's the one world religion because they want control of Jewish lands with no Jews in them. And we never talk about it because we're not allowed to.
Well, there's a lot of conversation going on about Israel today. That's for sure.
All bullshit. All 100% Muslim Brotherhood bullshit. That's who controls our media, not the Jews. The Muslim Brotherhood controls our media.
Really?
The marriage of Christian.
So yeah, I think our hater here in the comments is I think he says what Roseanne Barr, which that Muslims control the media, man. It's we live in a Muslim Brotherhood occupied America, and Pope Francis is actually going to be the next Hitler. Because Pope Francis, of course, we know supports Chrislam. He believes Muslims and Christians worship the same God. He also believes Jews worship the same God and gives Jews communion. But Christians and Muslims have united. We control the media. We control finance. And we are making sure that good Zionists like Roseanne Barr are driven insane. And that we're not talking about greater Israel. We believe in greater Qatar. We believe in greater Gaza and greater Qatar. And I fly free on Qatar Airways because I am paid by the Emir of Qatar, which I hope the haters in the chat clip. But the ban this retard. But the yeah, that clip had me laughing like nobody's business, because you can definitely get banned from and censored on all of social media for criticizing the Muslim Brotherhood. That's definitely something that's real. And Alan, I'm telling you to ban this guy. But the yeah, I appreciate my Qatari supporters. I would never sink so low as to take money from the United Arab Emirates. But Qatar, bring it in, man. I'll take the donations. You go to jail for it in the UK. Do you know what else you go to jail for in the UK? Criticizing Jewish people and having an opinion on World War II. But people like you only want to address the Muslims. I'm addressing all of your points, bro. But you're getting banned and you're not going to come back. So many people kind of come in here and do all this pro-Jewish nonsense. someone had said we got Father James, Metropolitan Seraphim of Piraeus, would be a great interview. I was able to see his talk at the conference in Alabama, and he gave a great talk about the Eighth Ecumenical Council, and he is one of the strongest proponents of recognizing the Eighth Ecumenical Council and commemorating it every year, which was, of course, the purpose of that conference in Alabama. But the sorry, I'm distracted reading the chat, but the no, that clip from Roseanne was just crazy. Which again, the Qatar thing is one of the things people always say, but again, Qatar, Israel, and Turkey, and ultimately I think with the collaboration of Russia, were the ones that orchestrated the fall of Syria. I mean, remember, Hamas, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, these groups are Sunni, they are Muslim Brotherhood aligned, and they are they're the ones that are more empowered in Turkey and Qatar and are actively disempowered in Egypt, which is one of the main reasons why this nonsense about, Qatar, Muslim Brotherhood control everything. The United States gives Egypt almost $1 trillion a year to, billions of dollars a year to prevent a Muslim Brotherhood government from taking power in Egypt. But the Muslim Brotherhood, controls our government apparently, but can't, prevent us from giving the second most foreign aid in the world to Egypt to prevent that very thing from happening. And of course, Turkey, they have to have a tenuous relationship with these groups because they're ostensibly secular. Again, look at what's happening. I guarantee you most of the, even though Israel is very unpopular, a lot of people in Turkey would be willing to see normalizations with Israel if it meant that Erdogan got out of power and Kemalists came in. And again, when these Kemalists come in, then, if Erdogan somehow falls in the next week or two, I would go on record and very strongly predict the Iran strikes, almost to the day. And that's not to say that the strikes won't come before the fall of Erdogan. I think the strikes could even precipitate the fall of Erdogan, from a number of different perspectives. Let's say Erdogan actually does move on Israel. In response to that, Israel, I think, is going to do whatever they can and ask their friends in Europe and America to escalate Erdogan's overthrow. Or let's say Erdogan doesn't do enough. Let's say Erdogan, it's exposed that he's all bark, which we know is true. The Turkish menace to Israel isn't a real thing. It's a phantasm that Israel is ginning up so they can continue to escalate and operate within Turkey. I mean, Israel's openly stated that the only acceptable scenario to them, on top of all the territory they're annexing in southern Syria, is total air dominance over Syria, that they can fly their jets over almost the entire country, which obviously that's ridiculous. That means there's no sovereignty, of course, but that, of course, is how Israel operates. And, if Erdogan proves that the whole anti-Israel thing was just a show, maybe even the more secular people, these younger people that I'm sure they do support Palestine, maybe that would cause them to, or maybe he would even lose support from some of his more hardcore Islamist base. I mean, a whole number of things could happen. But not seeing any more super chats here. Had an interesting spat with someone in the chat. That's always fun. I'm thinking in the future I might also just do on the Discord in the future. The problem is I'm not sure if I'd love to stream on StreamYard with the Discord and have people in Discord talking. If someone could let me know about this, maybe they can, but I don't think StreamYard will play Discord audio. I just won't. You can be in Discord and it won't, you can be in Discord and it won't play the audio on StreamYard. So in theory, to talk to somebody, I'd have to send them the StreamYard link and have them come into the room, but then they're in the room and it's a whole thing. But I would love to have people, if people want to come in and debate or call me an idiot and try to challenge what I say, I would love to go back and forth with them, or something Jay Dyer style, perhaps. So maybe that can be something we do in future streams. Let me know in the comments of this on Discord, on X, wherever you find me, what you think of the stream, what you think I should do, what you think I should talk about. Always looking to things to react to, hoping to, again, if you know somebody that's a real hater and they can, hop on a stream without literally melting down into profanity or blasphemy, then send them my way. I think someone was asking about a link to the Haas debate. DM me on X if you want to see the Haas debate. I can send you, it's just an X space that you could go back and find. I used to keep retweeting it every once in a while, but I don't want to anymore. I think if you just go to the Substack and find our first episode of World War, it was before we even did Ether Hour. It was a whole episode of World War Now with Momchilo, our good friend Momchilo Nevesky, who is the bane of the MAGA communists. And we had a whole episode talking about the debate. And in the description, you can click, there's a Twitter link that will take you to the whole space and you can watch it. And, you know, we let Haas talk for a long, long time. We talked to him for like well over 2 hours. But by the end of the space, he just started spurging out and claiming that we weren't Christians and blaspheming and saying these sorts of things. So we ended up having to remove him from the chat. But I think we made a point. I think it was supposed to be like a multiple MAGA communists versus multiple Orthodox Christians, but Haas was the only person that could even follow what we were saying. So he's like, oh, it was a 3 against 1. It's like, bro, you had your boys there. There were like 4 other MAGA communists in the space. They just literally had nothing to say because the entire MAGA communist thing is just, it's all just fed these talking points from Haas, who has all these people doing research for him, and then he's able to concoct it into a slightly more high IQ thing than all the other idiots that are in his thing have. Even Jackson Hinkle refuses one-on-one debates. He will only do a debate if Haas is in the room with him. And that was why he refused to debate Nick Fuentes. So real brave. I mean, honestly, respect to Jackson Hinkle for going. I mean, the Houthi thing was pretty funny, although I can't say that it made me support the Houthis more. It was one of the only things that would make me interested in, you know, where some of those strikes are landing. But, you know, it was at least some interesting content. People are telling me to give Josh a wrench. I can't do it while I'm live in the stream right now. I'll do it later for the next stream. But yeah, it seems that no one else is hating, so I don't think we need any huge moderation right now. But yeah, we'll have some more. We will have more wrenches in the future. Crow Eye says MAGA communists might unironically be paid by some government. I mean, look, if Jackson Hinkle comes back to the U.S. pretty much ever and has no problems, I mean, then it's just confirmed that he's a United States asset. I mean, that's just how it is. And I remember, oh, thank you, people complimenting the jacket. Jacket, also World War Now polo, which hopefully I can sell soon at some point. I know everyone's been asking about the hats. I've just been so busy recently, I haven't been able to do it, but hopefully in the future. We got some hats. I got Ether Hour hat, World War Now, Ether Hour hat, World War Now hat. These will be at the store. Hopefully the future World War Now store, and maybe mugs and some other things. But yeah, I appreciate everybody tuning in. I think we're about turning things down here. So it's been a fantastic stream. And Father James asks, what about the note? You know what? I'll bring out the note. Look, this gnome hat, though, I can't sell this. This was custom. See, even in its extendo form. And then there's the, the more formal, when I sit down to pontificate, and then the battle when I'm ready to engage, and I need to harness free energy from atmospheric energy, from the ether. This is how I harness it, and then I present it to you in a based word form into this microphone that I harness. But unfortunately, I mean, this thing cost me like $100. Over $100, or it's a gift, but it even has my initials on it. CKF. But so yeah, Conrad Franz, my real name. But maybe this will be maybe for paid subscribers or founding members like Father James, who is one of my top financial supporters. If people want, maybe that'll be a founding membership perk. If you support for $200 a year or more, maybe we'll send you a gnome hat. So many ideas. But yeah, let's get some gnome hats, some red triangles in chat as we sign off here. And again, thank you everybody for tuning in. Click the links down below. Like the stream if you haven't already. Be sure to like it on X too. If you could like it and retweet on both platforms, that would be fantastic. But I think this has been a good stream. I'm looking forward to doing this with you guys every Tuesday evening. And again, in the future, maybe we'll be playing some Ethno Guesser. Maybe we'll be reacting to some more content that you guys send me on the Discord. And maybe we'll even be interacting and debating with some haters, which I love that we have haters. You know, if you don't have haters, it means you're not standing up for anything. So I love that there are people on the internet that spend all day thinking about me and hating on me for what I have to say into this can right here. But thank you all so much for tuning in. It's been a pleasure. And with all of that, I'm going to tune back into the music here. I'm actually going to undo this and make sure that there's going to be sound. But again, thank you all so much for tuning in. It's been a pleasure. I will see you on the next one. God bless.